You think you're empathetic, you're actually predictable prey. Emotional manipulators read your morals like an open ledger and collect obedience, loyalty, and silence as payment. You were taught a lie early, that being good makes you safe. That empathy protects you. That decency filters out predators. This chapter exists to surgically remove that belief, because it is the first weakness manipulators detect. They do not fear your morals. They study them. Your moral lens is not invisible. It broadcasts. Every value you advertise, kindness, patience, loyalty, understanding, becomes a lever. Not a shield. A lever. Manipulators do not violate your ethics. They align with them just long enough to weaponize them against you. You assume conflict reveals character. It does not. Manipulation thrives in harmony, not hostility. The most dangerous individuals do not oppose your values. They mirror them. They nod at the right moments. They use your language. They perform concern. They let you believe you are dealing with someone safe. That belief is the opening. Here is the lens shift you must internalize. Morality is readable behavior. Anything readable can be reverse engineered. Once reverse engineered, it can be exploited. You are not being manipulated because you are stupid. You are being manipulated because you are legible. Empathy is not neutral. It creates asymmetry. The moment you prioritize understanding over observation, you surrender leverage. The moment you excuse behavior because they've been through a lot, you step into a pre-written role. The manipulator does not need to dominate you. He needs you to self-regulate in his favor. Good people believe intention matters. Manipulators operate on outcomes. This mismatch is fatal. While you are asking, did they mean harm? They are measuring, did this move produce compliance? You are playing ethics. They are playing economics. You also believe emotional intensity equals authenticity. That is another structural error. Emotion is not proof of truth. It is proof of activation. A manipulator can manufacture urgency, vulnerability, outrage, or intimacy on demand. You interpret intensity as sincerity. They interpret your response as confirmation that the hook is set. Notice the inversion. The traits you are most proud of, loyalty, patience, forgiveness, are the exact traits that delay your exit. They buy the manipulator time. Time to escalate requests. Time to normalize disrespect. Time to shift the frame so that you become the problem for noticing patterns. This is why manipulators despise boundaries but praise understanding. A boundary ends extraction. Understanding extends it. When you hear phrases like, "You're the only one who gets me," or "I thought you were different," you are not being chosen, you are being isolated. Isolation is not emotional, it is logistical. Another critical correction: manipulators do not target everyone. They select. They look for moral consistency, not strength. A man who must always be fair can be trapped by unfairness. A man who must always be kind can be punished with cruelty. A man who must always explain himself can be drowned in endless misinterpretation. Your mistake is believing that clarity resolves manipulation. It does not. Explanation feeds it. Every justification you offer is more data. Every emotional reaction is calibration. Silence is dangerous to manipulators. Articulation is nourishment. This chapter's objective is simple and brutal. Stop viewing morality as virtue and start viewing it as exposure. This does not mean abandoning ethics. It means removing the assumption that ethics protect you. They do not. Structure protects you. Detachment protects you. Being unreadable protects you. Until you shatter the moral lens, everything else is irrelevant. You will keep mislabeling predators as misunderstood. You will keep negotiating with people who are harvesting you. You will keep mistaking restraint for strength and patience for power. This is the first cut. Without it, you bleed slowly and call it being human. Manipulation is not emotional chaos. It is a system. Predictable, repeatable, optimized. Once you understand the engine, the illusion collapses. What felt personal becomes mechanical. What felt confusing becomes obvious. This chapter installs that recognition. At the core of emotional manipulation is leverage asymmetry. One side invests feelings, explanations, patience, and moral concern. The other side invests observation. That imbalance is the engine. The manipulator does not need to overpower you. He needs you to overextend yourself. The engine runs on 3 fuels: guilt, obligation, and narrative control. Guilt is the easiest entry point. It works because you believe accountability equals virtue. Manipulators exploit this by manufacturing situations where you feel responsible for their emotional state. If they are hurt, you must have caused it. If they are distant, you must repair it. Your internal dialogue becomes managerial. What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? The moment you accept emotional responsibility for another adult, the engine starts. Obligation is guilt's structural reinforcement. Once you feel responsible, the manipulator introduces precedent. After everything I've done for you, anyone else would have walked away. I defended you when others didn't. These statements are not memories, they are invoices. You are being reminded that you owe. And men who believe they owe are easily directed. Narrative control is the master lever. Whoever defines the story controls the outcome. Manipulators do not argue facts, they reframe meaning. If you object, you are insensitive. If you withdraw, you are cold. If you set boundaries, you are selfish. The goal is not to win the argument, it is to make every possible response cost you moral ground. Notice the pattern. Every move pressures you toward self-correction. You adjust tone. You soften language. You delay decisions. You explain intentions. The manipulator stays still. He watches which adjustment produces compliance. That feedback loop is the engine learning you. This is why manipulation often feels subtle rather than aggressive. Aggression triggers defense. Subtlety triggers introspection. And introspection is exploitable. The manipulator wants you looking inward while he operates outward. Another key component: emotional timing. Manipulators apply pressure when you are tired, uncertain, or invested. They introduce conflict after intimacy. They raise concerns right before decisions. They withhold approval until you overperform. None of this is random. It is pressure applied when resistance is lowest. You assume emotional conversations are mutual. They are not. To a manipulator, they are reconnaissance missions. Every value you state becomes a constraint he can exploit. Every fear you reveal becomes a handle. Every boundary you negotiate becomes flexible terrain. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Manipulators do not need to lie much. They let you lie to yourself. You tell yourself they are stressed. You tell yourself they mean well. You tell yourself patience will resolve it. That self-generated narrative is stronger than any deception they could fabricate. The engine also relies on intermittent reinforcement. Approval is given inconsistently. Affection appears and disappears. This creates behavioral conditioning. You start optimizing for their moods without realizing it. The unpredictability keeps you engaged. Stability would free you. So stability is withheld. Most men fail here because they interpret manipulation as emotional weakness in the other person. They try to fix it. This is catastrophic. Manipulation is not a wound. It is a strategy. Treating it like pain invites deeper extraction. The psychological shift this chapter enforces is critical. Stop asking why they behave this way. Start tracking what their behavior produces. Outcomes over intentions. Patterns over apologies. Effects over explanations. Once you see the engine, you cannot unsee it. The fog lifts. The confusion ends. And something else happens. Your emotional reactions begin to starve the system. Because this engine only runs when you supply fuel. Manipulators do not look the same, but they operate the same. This chapter strips away personality and exposes structure. Once you internalize these archetypes, recognition becomes instant. No analysis. No doubt. Pattern confirmed. There are 3 dominant forms. Most manipulators cycle between them. Some specialize. All are dangerous. The victim sovereign. This is the most common and the most underestimated. He rules through fragility. His power comes from appearing wounded, misunderstood, or unfairly treated. He does not demand, he implies. He does not attack, he collapses. And when he collapses, you rush in. His primary weapon is emotional gravity. Every conversation bends back to his suffering. If you succeed, he feels abandoned. If you struggle, he struggles more. If you set boundaries, you don't care like others. The goal is not sympathy, it is centrality. Your attention must orbit him. The victim sovereign never takes responsibility directly. He accepts blame theatrically, then punishes you with withdrawal. Silence becomes leverage. Sadness becomes accusation. You are trained to overfunction so he can underfunction. Men fall for this archetype because it flatters their self-image. You are not being manipulated, you are being trusted. You are not controlled, you are being needed. That illusion is the trap. Need is not intimacy. It is dependency disguised as depth. The moral enforcer. This archetype uses righteousness as a bludgeon. He positions himself as principled, ethical, or emotionally evolved. He speaks in absolutes. He frames disagreements as moral failures. You are not wrong, you are disappointing. The moral enforcer controls through shame. He sets standards that only you are expected to meet. He never yells. He never threatens. He judges. Calmly. Precisely. And you feel smaller every time. He uses phrases like "I expected better from you," or "I wouldn't do that to someone I care about." These are not values, they are weapons. They force you to defend your character instead of evaluating his behavior. This archetype is especially dangerous to intelligent men. You try to reason. You try to align. You try to be fair. Meanwhile, the rules keep shifting. Every concession becomes proof that the standard was valid. Every objection becomes proof that you lack integrity. The moral enforcer does not want obedience. He wants self-policing. He wants you correcting yourself before he has to speak. When that happens, control is complete. The charismatic extractor. This one is obvious in hindsight and invisible in the moment. He is charming, attentive, validating. He accelerates intimacy. He mirrors your values. He makes you feel seen, quickly. The charismatic extractor's power comes from speed. He creates emotional momentum before you have time to verify consistency. Trust is established through intensity, not time. And intensity is easy to fake. Once investment is secured, extraction begins. Favors, access, loyalty, silence. He frames requests as signs of closeness. If you hesitate, you are pulling away. If you comply, the demands escalate. This archetype thrives on contrast. Warmth followed by distance. Praise followed by critique. You chase the earlier version of him, assuming you caused the change. You did not. The change was the plan. Men fall hardest here because it feels like alignment. Finally, someone on your wavelength. Finally, mutual understanding. That belief is expensive. And you pay it in increments until you realize you are depleted. The critical pattern. Here is what matters. These archetypes are not personalities, they are operating modes. A single manipulator may rotate between them depending on resistance. Victim when confronted. Moral enforcer when questioned. Charismatic when access is threatened. Your error is trying to identify which one you are dealing with. That is unnecessary. The correct question is simpler. Does this interaction consistently move power away from me and responsibility away from them? If yes, the archetype is confirmed. This chapter's function is not to make you paranoid. It is to make you precise. Once you stop seeing manipulators as complex individuals and start seeing them as repeatable structures, emotional confusion ends. Recognition is not enough, but without it, you are already compromised. Manipulation is not random predation. It is selective hunting. This chapter explains why you, not others, were chosen, tolerated, cultivated, and slowly drained. If you misunderstand this, you will keep thinking it was bad luck. It was not. Manipulators do not seek the weakest men. They seek the most usable ones. Weak men break too easily. Strong men with no moral restraints are unpredictable. The ideal target is disciplined, principled, and emotionally invested in being good. You fit that profile. History makes this obvious. Every empire exploited its most loyal administrators, not its rebels. Every corrupt ruler surrounded himself with dutiful men who believed in order. Loyalty is efficient. Conscience is governable. And guilt is scalable. That is why you were selected. You operate with internal rules. Fairness. Consistency. Responsibility. You believe effort should be reciprocated. You believe clarity should resolve tension. These beliefs make you stable, but stability is exploitable. A manipulator can plan around you, predict you, delay you. Chaotic people cannot be farmed. Structured people can. You also carry something manipulators lack: self-restraint. You hesitate before acting. You consider consequences. You give second chances. This creates temporal advantage. While you are weighing ethics, the manipulator is advancing position. This is not about intelligence. Many targets are highly intelligent. Intelligence without detachment is a liability. You see nuance. You see multiple perspectives. You hesitate to label behavior as malicious without overwhelming evidence. Manipulators exploit that hesitation window repeatedly. There is also a deeper biological layer. Humans evolved in small groups where cooperation ensured survival. Emotional manipulators hijack this wiring. They simulate tribal cues, shared struggle, exclusivity, emotional disclosure, to trigger bonding. Your nervous system responds before your logic does. Modern environments amplify this vulnerability. Workplaces, relationships, communities, all reward emotional openness while punishing suspicion. You are trained to be accessible, collaborative, and understanding. Manipulators weaponize those norms. They hide behind them. Another uncomfortable truth: your need to be seen as fair makes you defenseless against unfair strategies. You assume others play by the same rules. When they do not, you try to correct the mismatch instead of exiting the game. That correction effort is where power transfers. You tell yourself, if I explain clearly, they'll understand. They already understand. They are counting on you explaining again. Each explanation reinforces their position as judge and you as applicant. Manipulators also test early. Small boundary violations. Subtle guilt. Minor reframing. If you correct them decisively, they disengage. If you accommodate, they escalate. You pass the test. That is why you are still here. Notice who is not targeted: men who disengage without explanation. Men who do not negotiate self-respect. Men who do not need to be understood by everyone. These men are unprofitable. Manipulators sense this quickly and move on. You were chosen because you stay. This chapter's psychological objective is to destroy the fantasy that being targeted means being special. It does not. It means you were cost-effective, high yield, low resistance, renewable. Once you accept this, something critical shifts. Shame dissolves. Confusion ends. You stop personalizing the manipulation and start seeing it as a resource extraction model. And once you see yourself as a resource, the next question becomes unavoidable. Why are you still making yourself available? That question leads directly into strategy. Recognition without behavioral change is cosmetic. Manipulators are not defeated by insight, they are defeated by denied access. This chapter installs countermeasures, not emotional reactions, not confrontations, but structural moves that make extraction impossible. First principle, never announce a shift. Manipulators adapt quickly to declared boundaries. They argue against them. They moralize them. They exhaust them. Power is not reclaimed through explanation. It is reclaimed through altered behavior without commentary. Your primary weapon is non-participation. Stop engaging in emotional negotiations. Emotional negotiation is the manipulator's battlefield. The moment you debate feelings, intentions, or interpretations, you are already inside the trap. Replace explanation with brevity. Replace justification with closure. Fewer words. Fewer reactions. No emotional transparency. Silence is not passive. It is a strategic blackout. Second principle, remove emotional incentives. Manipulators feed on reaction, defensiveness, reassurance, guilt, anger. When those disappear, the behavior loses efficiency. Do not reward pressure with engagement. Do not reward guilt with compliance. Do not reward confusion with clarification. This does not mean hostility. Hostility is still engagement. It gives them energy. It gives them data. Indifference starves the system. Third principle, collapse ambiguity. Manipulators thrive in gray zones, unclear roles, undefined expectations, flexible boundaries. They stretch these zones to extract more. Your counter is precision. Clear decisions. Clean exits. Firm timelines. Binary responses. Yes or no. Available or unavailable. Participating or not. Ambiguity is generosity to predators. Fourth principle. Stop emotional bookkeeping. You do not owe people proportional access because of past interactions. Debt is a fiction manipulators invent to bind you to the past. The present is the only relevant metric. If the current behavior costs you clarity, energy, or self-respect, disengage. No reconciliation ceremony required. Fifth principle, refuse role assignment. Manipulators assign you functions: rescuer, stabilizer, confessor, mediator. The moment you occupy a role, your behavior becomes predictable. Predictability is exploitable. Step out of roles silently. Let problems remain unsolved. Let emotions remain unmanaged. By you. Adults manage themselves or they search for surrogates. Do not volunteer. Sixth principle, exit asymmetrically. Do not seek fairness in disengagement. Fairness prolongs exposure. You are not required to give closure, explanations, or emotional accounting. Those are privileges, not obligations. Withdraw cleanly. Reduce access. End loops. The manipulator will escalate briefly. Confusion, guilt, moral pressure, charm. This is not proof you are wrong. It is proof the countermeasures are working. Extraction systems spike when supply is threatened. Seventh principle, replace openness with selectivity. You do not become closed, you become discriminating. Emotional access is granted based on consistency over time, not intensity in moments. Trust is built slowly or not at all. Anyone who rushes closeness is signaling impatience with verification. This chapter's goal is to reprogram your default response. From engagement to assessment. From explanation to execution. From empathy first to structure first. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming unavailable for misuse. Power is not loud. It is quiet refusal. It is the ability to disengage without needing to be understood. It is the capacity to let others misunderstand you without correction. When manipulators can no longer move you emotionally, they lose leverage. When they lose leverage, they lose interest. And when they lose interest, they leave. That is not victory. That is hygiene. The final step is deeper. Because even with countermeasures, the old identity still pulls you back. That identity must die. Countermeasures fail when the underlying identity remains intact. You can change tactics and still bleed if the same self-image keeps volunteering for sacrifice. This chapter is not about improvement. It is about execution. The identity manipulator's exploit must be dismantled and replaced. That identity is built on a dangerous belief. Being good will be recognized and reciprocated. It will not. It will be tested, stretched, and consumed. The world does not reward goodness, it selects for leverage. Until you accept this, you will keep re-entering the same traps with different faces. Your old identity is loyal by default. It gives trust early. It explains itself. It seeks alignment. It wants to be seen as fair, reasonable, and emotionally intelligent. These traits feel virtuous, but they are open ports. They invite occupation. Manipulators do not attach to your body, they attach to this identity. Kill it, and they have nothing to work with. Identity death begins with detachment from moral validation. You must stop needing to see yourself as the good one in every interaction. The need to be morally clean is the need manipulators exploit most. They force you into ethical dilemmas where every option costs you self-respect, unless you disengage entirely. Disengagement feels wrong at first because your old identity equates withdrawal with cruelty. That is conditioning. Cruelty is intentional harm. Withdrawal is sovereignty. Confusing the two keeps you enslaved. Next, you replace empathy as default with assessment as default. This is not cynicism. It is triage. You do not emotionally invest until behavior proves consistent over time. You do not rush understanding. You observe. You let people reveal patterns without interference. The new identity does not rush to rescue confusion. It allows silence. It allows discomfort. It allows others to sit with the consequences of their own behavior. This alone filters out most manipulators, who depend on your discomfort to function. Another critical shift: you stop advertising values. The old identity signaled morals early, hoping for alignment. The new identity keeps values private and enforced through action, not speech. What is visible can be used. What is silent must be respected. You also abandon the fantasy of mutual depth. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Depth is not a right, it is a clearance level. The new identity treats emotional access like territory, granted slowly, defended quietly, reclaimed without apology. This identity is not reactive. It does not chase resolution. It does not need closure. It understands that unanswered questions are sometimes strategic assets. You do not need to clear the air. Clear air invites new toxins. Most importantly, the new identity accepts being misinterpreted. This is the final barrier. Manipulators rely on your need to correct false narratives. They provoke you into defending yourself so they can regain engagement. When you stop correcting, their stories collapse under their own weight. Being misunderstood is the tax of independence. This chapter's psychological objective is final: to sever your sense of self from approval, harmony, and moral applause. You do not need to be liked to be intact. You do not need to be understood to be sovereign. You do not need to be fair to people who are strategic. The death of the old identity is quiet. No announcement. No confrontation. Just absence. Reduced access. Altered behavior. Over time, something becomes clear. Manipulators stop appearing in your life. Not because you are better at spotting them, but because there is nothing left for them to extract. That is replacement. Not with hardness, but with structure. Not with cruelty, but with selectivity. Not with isolation, but with control.